Welcome, healthy friends, to the Reality of Health. Today is part 2 of Your Mind Makes It Real. German New Medicine. I love this subject. You know, sometimes we don't always figure out what's wrong with us. We're always searching for things. We're like, oh, it must be this, or this happened, or that happened, or why is this happening? We always think it's physical. It's always a materialistic thing. A virus, or an infection, or just anything that you are in fear of all the time. You're like, oh yeah, you must have ate something bad. And then along comes Dr. Ryke Hamer. And he says, you know what I figured out? This is crazy. That you can be shocked by something. You know, like that. Well, you wouldn't maybe always do that expression, but you know, you are shocked by something, a death, or you're in fear. You know, you almost died. You lost somebody you love, things like these. And then soon after that, you come down quite rapidly with some kind of dis-ease. Could be physical, could be just pain, like pain you wouldn't normally ever think of. It's just constantly there, like a headache. And you're like, man, this headache all the time. I don't understand. Must be a magnesium deficiency. Well, it's definitely not an Advil deficiency. So you think, man, this headache, I don't understand. It's just all the time. Don't get it. Then you find out it's caused by something that happened in your life. So Dr. Hamer said, the differentiation between the psyche, the brain, and the body is purely academic. In reality, I kind of like that. If you don't know the reference, it's called the Reality of Health. Anyway, in reality, they are one. Yes. All the nomenclature we use for your brain and thinking and consciousness, all of that stuff in your body and how they connect, they are one. All of it, mind, body, and spirit, they're all together as one entity. Love it. All right, I don't want this to be super long, but I think it's really important for you to see what he had to say, that his entire approach is everything is connected, and he proved it. It's not all separate. So let's get into how and why, in his terms, you get sick. If you remember in the part 1, we did his laws 1 and 2. Now we're into 3, 4, 5. Notice the color. And first of all, I know this might get a little complex. I don't mean it to be. I'm going to try and make it super simple. I know it's going to be hard to follow, especially in audio, because, well, you can't see the colors. I would highly recommend you go to the video to watch this. I wish I could make this really long. I would love to. Maybe we will someday if you want me to break it down further. But in the meantime, what this is for you to grasp how your brain connects to issues and diseases and symptoms in your body. Well, where does it come from? Like he said, starts in the brain. Okay, don't worry about these graphs I'm going to show you and stuff. Don't worry about all the stuff. I'm going to explain what's only necessary for you to understand, to grasp this concept. But what's really important is, I want you to think about, if you're trying to worry about where your diabetes came from, or where you're, like he had, testicular cancer, or any of these other things, it's not always you got just sick. Maybe there is a mental trauma that happened to you. That is very, very common. It's known in medicine. It's known in mental or psychological healing, where people let go of something bad that happened and boom, look at that. I feel great. I no longer have any number of diseases. So when you understand kind of where it comes from, it can kind of help you say, yeah, maybe I'll go back in my story, my testimony of my life, and say, oh, when I got in that car accident and I almost died, yeah, I started developing lung issues, really specific ones. You see? Okay. All right. He does things in colors, red, orange, and yellow. I'm going to refer to these. Those of you in audio, I'm sorry, try and stick with me. So you have an ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm. No reason to get into all of that. It gets really into anatomy and physiology. Don't worry about it. Just let's go with the colors, okay? Ectoderm. Notice your cerebral cortex, all right? Meso is your cerebral medulla and your cerebellum. And then your endoderm, that would be your brainstem, okay? Viruses, notice if they exist. That's too funny because he knows they don't. But anyway, you would classify things like whatever these could be, they clean up these areas. They're associated with a disease symptom trying to make you better. Orange, that's bacteria. So when you have things happening in here, remember, he did the CT scans and showed you the rings, and he found, well, look, in that area, this is what happened correlated in your body. Well, the cleanup mechanism can be associated this way. There's a lot here. I'm trying to make it as simple as possible. And then the endoderm, that's brainstem related, and that's mycobacteria, also known as fungus. All right. So the endoderm, we just talked about, mostly affects, look, lungs, the alimentary canal, uterus, prostate. Okay? The mesoderm mostly affects your pleura, your peritoneum, and your pericardium. Peritoneum is the fascia and the structure that holds your torso all in check. And pericardium, of course, is the sac around your heart. That's the fascia like balloon that holds your heart together. And then we have pleura, and that's mostly your lung system. Then you have another area of your meso, which is striated muscle, bones, tendons, ligaments, connective tissue, the lymphatic system, and blood vessels. Okay? You can see how these correlate. So as you're naming these off, and you think about, oh yeah, I have a problem there. Okay. And then your ecto, and that would be your bile ducts, your pancreatic ducts, and milk ducts, and the breasts, obviously. Your cervix, uteri, your bronchial tubes, and your heart vessels. Also, layers of your epidermis. That's your skin. You can see how these kind of correlate to areas of your body. These derms, these dermal areas. Great breakdown of how this works. So now you've had a trauma, whatever that is. You got shocked. Somebody died. I almost died. I lost my job. On and on. In the cerebral cortex and the cerebral medulla, this is where you have cell loss. So now you have dead and dying tissue. Something is damaging your tissues. Then, in the cerebellum and the brainstem, during this phase, you have cell proliferation, things like tumors. Okay. Now, the third phase, you have to remediate or restore that situation. So in the cerebral cortex and medulla zone, where you had death of tissue, dying tissue, poisoning, things like this, you're going to have bacteria, mostly, trying to restore. After the cell proliferation, the growth of cells, you use fungus and bacteria to remove it. Okay, follow me. We're not going to get super in depth. This follows the terrain theory, by the way. So now you have a Dirk Hamer syndrome, DHS, remember in part 1. Here's your trauma. You go through this trauma phase, that's a conflict phase, and that's what starts this, either cell death or cell proliferation. Once that's complete, your body says, all right, that's enough, time to clean up everything. I need to heal. Now you start the symptoms, the ones everybody loves. Everything from headaches to diarrhea to swelling and inflammation and all of it, right? This is the healing phase. So now you have all this healing phase to how would you say? It's healing underneath, and then you're feeling a lot of it. And then underneath, you're scarring. Underneath meaning you don't feel a lot of it. Let me give you an example. Let's say you just get a normal cold and flu. You are actually having a cold or flu about 2 to 3 days before you feel it. So here's your 2 to 3 days not really feeling that. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, I feel a sinusy thing coming along. And then it's like, oh, now I feel a headache. Oh, my throat hurts. Oh, I'm coughing, can't sleep. Oh, what's the color coming out of me? Oh, this is terrible. On and on and on. Then you're like, I feel better. And then underneath that cold that is now gone, your body is repairing some stuff. Well, if you had something like cell proliferation, you had a tumor in that area, and it's gone, well, then what? Well, it's going to scar it in that area. You don't feel the scarring, but it's there. I hope you understand what I just went through really quickly. In the phase of healing all this stuff is your terrain. Remember, we've gone over this many times. Your somatids, your microzyma. This is pleomorphism. Your body has a way through bacteria, yeast, and fungus to heal you. This is amazing. This is how you heal. You need workers to show up to heal the area, and then these guys, they turn right back into the same somatid that they started from. They never go away. They are infinite. So, think about it like this. You have dead and dying tissue because of a trauma in your mind. Shows up in your elbow skin. And then you're like, what in the heck is going on? Well, it looks like fungus. And you're looking at that, it's all chafy and dry. And you're like, that looks gross. And it looks weird and it kind of hurts a little bit for a little while. Then you worked through. You never even put anything on it, because if you're a man, you just go, it'll go away. And you kind of work through that trauma, psyche thing that you went through. And then one day you notice that, it's less. And then, it's less again. And you're like, it's going away. Yeah, because you dealt with the emotional thing. It showed up in the elbow. And then the microzymas, using yeast or mold at the time, ate it up, because for whatever reason, the body's like, I'm going to handle this over here on the elbow. Eric, that's such a stupid example. How many people have you seen with like really weird elbows? Then, that bony elbow skin there. And they're not like people who use their elbows a lot. It's just naturally there. Well, Eric, that's just dumb. All right. Well, what about eczema? Psoriasis? Shingles? Name it. A lot of these things start in the brain. There are so many people that have healed their brain situation, their mental attitude, their fear thing, their worry, their trauma, and then their physical problems go away. The mind is absolutely connected to the body. Anyway, so now we're back to orange. So here's a situation with your cerebellum, right? We have, this is your brainstem. This is a top-down view, just so you know. Left side, this is where he would see those circles in the CT scan. Right breast glands. Yeah, I only have a tumor in my right breast. I don't have anything in my left. That's weird. How come I don't have them on both sides? Because it showed up on the right side. That's the situation. Obviously on the left over here. And in your pericardium, the circles in the CT scan show here. Well, that's your pericardium. And notice it's left and right. I said last episode, he figured this out. It is absolutely a left-right thing. You got a left-right brain. You're left-handed, you're right-handed. So your body does this too. Anyway, this is amazing. So close to each other, and yet your pericardium, which is that sac that is surrounding your heart, can get inflamed. It's called pericarditis, and it's nasty, and it's happening to a lot of people in the world right now. I wonder why. So in the female reproductive area, notice we have yellow. That's from the brainstem. So if he's showing CT scan problems in the brainstem, then you could see them in the fallopian tubes, and the uterus, and then, of course, the muscles. But look, now you're in the ovary with orange, that we just talked about, and red, and that's a whole different other derma. You see? So it can get this specific. He found this in thousands of people in his oncology clinic. It's amazing. Now you say, all right, well, I got this problem. I don't know where it started. I don't even know what I had as trauma or a conflict or anything. This is just where I have a problem. All right, here's a great list. I'm not going to go through all these. Let's just hit a couple. Teeth enamel. Not allowed to bite. So somehow you went through something traumatic where you couldn't actually bite. Maybe it was braces. Who knows? You have a problem in your larynx muscle. That's fear. You have a shock of a fear situation. So what do people do when they get fearful? They close up, right? They don't, so it can show up there. We always like to talk about rectums. So rectum mucosa problem, a territory of the anger and decision conflict. So what happens when you get mad? Tense up. Well, if you really tense up, does your anus tense up? Well, it sure does. What about this one? Stomach, liver, gallbladder, pancreas, mucosa. Anger. So when you get really angry, and you're just like, does your torso just get so worked up and get tight? Absolutely it does. Get stressed out. You can go through all kinds of issues in your gut when you're just so angry. You're so mad. Anyway, this is what he found. He correlated these. So he would see the sensory cortex. He would see problems in that light green associated with anger. And like I said, the soma did show up and have to clean up the mess. Again, this is would be his number 4. This is number 4, his loss. Okay? So don't forget this. This is an old drawing from a really long time ago. This is literally what's happening in your body every day, all day, your entire life. It's fascinating. I want you to see this real quick. If the required microbes are not available upon the resolution of the conflict, that's the trauma that went into your brain, because they were destroyed through an overuse of antibiotics, the growth encapsulates and stays in place. Whatever that growth is, tumor, benign cyst, yada, yada. In conventional medicine, this is usually diagnosed as a benign cancer or a polyp. Note, today, the overuse of antibiotics is one reason why more cancers are found during routine examinations. Yeah, because you stop the body using the somatids to get rid of the tumor. So they show up more. You see more of them. Dr. Hamer, regarding the diagnosis of cancers, about 40% of routine examinations reveal old encapsulated tumors. Old, like your body stopped trying to get rid of it, which should be left untouched. If the diagnosis has caused any conflicts, such as a death fright conflict or a self-devaluation conflict, these conflicts need to be addressed. In any case, there is never a reason to panic or to be scared of metastasizing cancer cells. Boom. Fear is the killer. And then in his fifth biological law, I love this. Every so-called disease is part of a significant biological special program of nature created to assist an organism, humans and animals alike, during unexpected distress. It's awesome. Now, listen, okay? This is what Hamer said. I love this. All so-called diseases have a special biological meaning. While we used to regard Mother Nature as fallible and had the audacity to believe that she constantly makes mistakes and cause breakdowns like malignant, senseless, degenerative, cancerous growth, etc., we can now see, as the scales fall from our eyes, that it was our ignorance and pride that were and are the only foolishness in our cosmos. Blinded, we brought upon ourselves this senseless, soulless, and brutal medicine. Wonder which one that is. Full of wonder, we can now understand for the first time that nature is orderly and that every occurrence in nature is meaningful, even in the framework of the whole. Ready? Nothing in nature is meaningless, malignant, or diseased. That I just want a mic drop. How do I mic drop? I can't. I don't want to hurt my mic. Nothing is meaningless, malignant, or diseased regarding your health. Okay? Don't fear. Here are some general ideas of where you would feel symptoms if you were sick. So in your respiratory system, your ENT, your nose and throat, colds and flus and cough, sinus situations, sore throat. In the musculoskeletal area, you have stiff back, painful joints, muscle tension. Gastrointestinal, you might get constipation, diarrhea, indigestion, poor appetite. You get you get my drift here. Mental health symptoms like difficulty sleeping, tension, can't concentrate, worrying, depression. The reason why I put this up here, the idea is that when you associate these, you think, oh, this diarrhea is my disease. No, it's a symptom of a problem in your gastrointestinal life. You have to find what that issue is and resolve it according to him. Not everything is caused by your mind. I get it. If you, ingested a heavy dose of mercury, it wasn't a mental thing. That was straight out oops. But what he found was, man, every time he correlated cancer and these problems with people, he could see it in the brain. So how do you quantify that? Well, Eric, now that you've totally blown my mind, how do I even heal? Well, you have to heal your body, mind, and spirit. I can give you recommendations, but ultimately it's up to you to find out what works for you. It doesn't work for everybody the same way. The very first thing, though, get your mind right. If he is correct, it starts with a trauma that happened in your psyche. Figure that out. Go back. Hey, I started having diarrhea regularly March 25th of whatever year. Well, what happened right before that? Oh, yes, I remember what happened. Yada, yada. Okay. Clear that out. And then start working on the body. There's so many ways to heal. It's insane. So many modalities. Everybody out there, naturopaths, everybody's got their way of doing things. I am certainly not an expert. I learn things every day that I didn't know about. But then a lot of times I'm hearing stuff from people and I'm like, okay, first of all, that is not true. I know enough about that subject to know that's wrong and you are uneducated. Anyway, work on yourself. You have to heal. Figure it out. When you start healing, your energy into you is better. Everything around you, you see life better. You are more in tune with your family. When you work on this mental stuff and you start getting it out and your body starts healing, then naturally people notice, wow, John's he's really changed. He's just nicer and he's lost weight and he just looks great. Or another person, pick it. You gravitate more good things into your life. But if you're always working off that mental shock all the time, you can't get into this state, which is this state. Obviously, this is an AI representation of a guy sitting on a rock at the top of a mountain ridge looking over the valley at a sunset. There's a point to this photo. If this is you, you've got one of two ways. You can sit there and look across and say, I don't know what to do. I hurt. Everything's wrong in my life. I don't know. I'm just stuck. I am helpless and my life is over and there's no point in going on. Or he's thinking, I'm so relieved. I took the effort to figure out what started it all. I cleared it out. I took care of myself. I feel great. Now I can enjoy a sunset for what it is. Overlooking a valley on a mountain ridge, sitting on a rock. Simple. You can either make your life better or you can keep going every day wondering why and in fear. Don't do that. You can heal. Everybody can heal. You just got to take the effort. There's so many things I want to say in this episode. Just wanted to keep it as clear and concise. Hopefully you got it. And if you want more, just let me know. But I love this concept. It starts in your mind. It makes it real. Isn't it Morpheus that said that to Neo? Didn't that happen? And didn't he say well, your mind makes it real? Something like that? Well, anyway. Thank you for listening. Really appreciate it, everybody. If you have any thoughts, episode ideas you want, let me know. Take care of yourselves.